Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice. Anyway, enough about that little movie gang and stuff like that. So anyways, and I am from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos here. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic Origins while we're playing through Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally the Nintendo Switch. So last time we've essentially managed to experience the forms of 5 zones in the last video by experiencing the forms of Emerald Hill Zone, Chemical Plant Zone, Aquatic Ruin Zone, Casino Night Zone, and Hilltop Zone. In addition to those zones, we somehow managed to already obtain all 7 Chaos Emeralds in one specific zone. That is of course the forms of Emerald Hill Zone. So that's actually super top notch and everything, especially because, you know, I'm the fastest thing alive, despite the fact that I was a little bit slow at points in the beginning though, but relatively speaking though, we could, you know, breezily win for those stages very fast and stuff like that, because, you know, we've already got all 7 Chaos Emeralds after all. So today, for this video, it's about the fact that we can, potentially speaking, finishing up with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 before we move on to the final game of this entire compilation as of now, because obviously about the forms of some speculations about the forms of Sonic Origins Plus, thanks to the forms of the Korean rating board. So, but time will tell, relatively speaking, because relatively speaking, I've not already said that twice, because, speaking of which though, about the fact that, well, today's day is of course the, dang it, I somehow died again. I think I wasn't paying attention to that at all, because I wasn't expecting I'd get too much distractions by, utilizing drop dash and stuff like that, but, oh well, no big deal. So that was the second death so far in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And I think I've somewhat lost count my deaths count so far for this entire Sonic Origins compilation so far anyway though. Well, that's only mainly because about the fact that again, this is going to be only uploaded in weekends as opposed to weekdays and such. So that's, as a result, that's the only reason why that this particular Let's Play might be a bit shorter. So either way though, so much shorter than the forms of how it does in Super Mario 3D All-Stars, that's for sure. So anyways though, and as you can tell, we're about to be experiencing Mystic Cave Zone. Well, not anymore anyway though, because we somehow ended up in Hidden Palace Zone instead. Well, relatively speaking though, we've already done Act 1 of Mystic Cave Zone already. So as a result though, that potentially speaking, when it comes to the forms of certain zones we can probably expect to be able to explore into, when it comes to the finale portion of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, that is the fact that not only we've already done Mystic Cave Zone, but we're about to be moved on to Hidden Palace Zone, as you can see. But also, we can probably experiencing Oil Ocean Zone, Metropolis Zone, Sky Chase Zone, and Wing Fortress Zone, and finally Death Egg Zone. So, yeah, thanks to the forms of how the fact that, well, since this is obviously going to be played in Anniversary Mode, well, until if we stumble across the final boss in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 again, thankfully we don't need to worry about the forms of the life system, because obviously with all that, coins are actually act out as like, you know, retrying special stages and spend some coins able to unlock something in the museum. You probably name the rest of it though. So anyway, so a few things I want to explain for this point today, and that is the fact that, well, today's day is of course the 26th of February today. What the hell just happened right there? Did I jump high? Wow, WTF I suppose. I do apologize for that particular word I was almost going to be saying right there, but either way though, I was like, what the hell just happened right there with all that weird jumps and all that stuff? Oh well, no big deal. Okay, anywho, so, as I said before, today's day is of course the 26th of February today, in this case in 2023 today. Oh yeah, something tells me is about the fact that, well, happy 13th anniversary, or happy 13th birthday as far as what I meant to say, of the actual release of Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing for the Wii, DS, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. I'm not exactly sure about the PC version of it though, because obviously I don't usually own that much PC games anymore, just because I somehow managed to give up doing PC gaming and stuff like that. Well, sometimes I do, with all that fan-made games and stuff like that, but For its official games though, I don't normally try to able to buy something for PC owners, for Steam for that matter, so that's maybe just me, for maybe biased I guess. And there we go, that pretty much does it for Hidden Power Zone. Thanks to forms of supersonic transformations, I simply managed to beat this boss fight no problem. Unlike any forms of how it does it whenever you're trying to play as Knuckles on this zone, you have to deal with the forms of the hard way by, you know what I mean, guiding the actual bomb to able to, just try to raise the water to able to lower it down. Eggman with the actual trumpet instrument and stuff like that. I mean, might be pretty tricky to explain because I know for a fact it's been about, yesterday since we've actually last played this game for sure. But either way though, that might be stuffed up as such. So anyway, another thing I would probably explain about this is that you guys even know about the fact that since that Silver the Hedgehog, he's obviously already finishing up with the forms of Mega Man X ever since on Thursday. It did turn out of nowhere that Minecraft is already getting itself its updates, well, specifically for its DLC department. That's of course that Minecraft is getting Mega Man X DLC outfits. So pretty cool, I have to say. Especially it does manage to contain, I would say, certain outfits based off from specifically Mega Man X on the Super Nintendo title, because I'm pretty sure it does not reveal Axel or something like that, because they only revealed like some iconic characters like, X, Zero, Sigma, as well as Vile, or is it Vile's in there? I didn't pay. Oh wait, Vile was in this, so, and also say applies to certain Mavericks, like for instance there's Storm Eagle, and also with the forms of Chill Penguin and Armored Armadillo, and you probably named the rest of it though, especially noticeable because if you guys want to check that Let's Play out of Mega Man X, I would highly recommend you able to look it up. So anyway, so the next thing I want to mention though is that, remember why I said this briefly about the fact that, yeah, technically speaking, that E3 for this year is still happening? Well, apparently though, that recently that Ubisoft is definitely going to be confirmed for the likes of this year's E3, which I guess is a good thing, especially they might try to focusing on not only for certain titles coming up, but also potentially them also show off some more details about, Mario Plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope DLC. I was hoping for that anyway, because for whatever reason that the Nintendo Direct, for the recent Nintendo Direct, didn't actually show us more details about Mario Plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, sadly. Well, in terms of DLC departments, so hopefully Ubisoft will able to actually try to do that instead. Like, potentially speaking, like, I don't know, Ubisoft Forward presentation, perhaps? And, either way, though, I'll explain more details on that in a moment, because as you can tell, we now moved on to the next zone, which is, of course, Oil Ocean Zone. Can be a confusing zone at times, just because of all that. It's almost like a maze-like level, but relatively speaking, once you're able to memorize the level layouts like I just did, you should do it okay. So, either way, that's saying something. So, anyway, because unfortunately though, there's one thing that Maxi has totally forgot to mention about, and especially noticeable with how both Mighty and Ray have both forgot to mention about during the course of an, Mario Slam Basketball Let's Play, and let's not forget I forgot to mention about during the course of an Ape Escape Let's Plays. That is the fact that sadly, that Sony, Microsoft, and most importantly, Nintendo will not be part on this year's E3, sadly. So, I honestly have no idea why they managed to able to do this. Well, thankfully it's nothing to do with that C word, which obviously we're not going to mention about that ever again. Because let's face it though, I just simply give up on the forms of that stupid C word, so you probably already know what I mean. So, yeah, that's that. And also keep this in mind is that stay tuned until tomorrow for those who are the huge Pokemon fans out there. Because obviously Pokemon Presents presentation will be up and during at some point until tomorrow. So God knows if whatever we're able to see something new for the likes of Pokemon stuff. It could be either be well, as I've already predicted this earlier, since during the forms event yesterday, which is obviously by the forms of maybe potentially we're able to see some DLC is coming for the likes of the forms of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and also not to mention though, maybe some other remakes or something like that, or perhaps even maybe Detective Pikachu sequel or something like this. Well, just before when the movie itself is in the works or something like that. But again, time will tell, but I'm pretty sure that both Mighty and Ray were able to mention more about it until some time, or perhaps even I can able to mention more about it until when I go back onto Sonic Origins, as you probably already know. Oh boy, Metropolis Zone, we've met again, but this time around though, I've got Tails with me, so hopefully we'll try to able to thrash this stage, to able to actually just try a little bit more dominant or anything else like that. Filled to the brim with the most annoying enemies in the game, which is of course Shellcrackers, Astronauts, and especially noticeable with those godforsaken slicers. Like, seriously, those slicers can go utter hell right there. Oh, I did not mean to say that, so I do apologize for this point, folks. Although, mind you, because I've learned that from Shadow, because obviously he just says that a lot, especially noticeable because he's all edgy and dark and all that stuff though, which, to be fair, because he does have his own game after all, so... Anywho, so, apparently though, speaking of the forms of Nintendo Switch stuff, that some people seem to able to actually realize that they really want certain Sonic games to be released on Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass or something like that. Well, it might be possible, especially noticeable about the fact that obviously we haven't got any single Sonic Events games onto our Wii U Virtual Console we released back in the day, because only Japan got it only. So let's just hope by that time that Nintendo Switch could potentially try to able to contain some Sonic games to be on the Game Boy Advance Online Expansion Pass, because after all, they obviously got Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Sonic Spinball thanks to the forms of the Sega Genesis or Sega Mega Drive expansion pack for the likes of the Nintendo Switch online services and stuff like that. So, God knows, what am I able to contain? Well, as far as I'm aware, I did look up on the forms of this Sonic Stadium website that they did say about the fact that we're able to actually have the top Sonic GBA games we want to see on a Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. I believe the majority of the people out there did say about the fact that the majority of them are picking or potentially speaking, speculating for Sonic Battle will be on there, because obviously Sonic Battle will be a pretty good addition to the forms of the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack, because obviously that will be a multiplayer focus, especially noticeable concerning about the fact that, well, back in the day we have to utilize the Game Boy Advance cable link in order to able to play multiplayer stuff, you know? And, the second being Sonic Events 1 being the forms of the true Sonic the Hedgehog 4, at least in my opinion, because obviously the momentum and physics do work in Sonic Events 1, and the third being Sonic Events 3, and fourth being Sonic Events 2, and potentially the fifth one being Sonic Pinball Party, which I'm not exactly sure if that's going to be the case, and number 6 will be Choo Choo Rocket, and number 7 will be Puyo Pop Fever, which I'm not exactly sure if that's going to be included, and same applies to the forms of Puyo Pop and Tiny Chow Garden. I mean, let's face it, Tiny Chow Garden has always existence from certain Sonic Events Game Boy Advance games, like they obviously got one for Sonic Events 1, Sonic Events 2, and Sonic Pinball Party. Well, despite that in Advance 2, you do need to unlock it thanks to the forms of the Chaos Emerald system. And the lowest being is, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis, because let's face it, I highly doubt that the Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis will not be included on the actual NSO expansion, because, oh my god, if it does, oh jeez, that might drive anyone else in a wall, especially concerning about the fact that they have to go for this entire PTSD about the forms of the worst ever Sonic games to be in existence, well, next to the forms of Sonic Boom, Rise of Lyric, or Sonic 06, or even Sonic Free Riders as a matter of fact. So either way, that pretty much as far as I can usually try to describe it, so So here we go on to the forms of Metropolis Zone Act 3 now. So yeah, this is the only zone they do manage to contain 3 acts instead of the usual 2. So yeah, I guess that makes it pretty obvious to make things a bit more lengthy here. But either way though, yeah, that's as far as I can usually think about it. And also I just realized something, since that we've actually got ourselves a Nintendo Switch since almost 6 years now. Well, generally speaking, about the fact that until next Friday coming up, that will actually marks the 6th year anniversary of the release of the Nintendo Switch until the 3rd of March. So yeah, pretty swell I have to say. Oh, and also another thing I possibly forgot to mention about, or perhaps even maybe that Silver has totally forgot to mention about, or heck, even especially noticeable when Maxi has totally forgot to mention about, from the likes of the forms of in Donkey Kong 64, alongside with Mega Man X Let's Plays, respectively, that apparently though, what I've realized is that North America did somehow manage to get the physical copy of Metroid Prime Remastered right earlier than the forms of how it does it on the UK countries for some reason, which I honestly have no idea why they managed able to release that particular copy a bit earlier. Well, mind you, we're still able to actually access the eShop versions of that particular game, but still, it's a bit weird able to actually release the particular stuff a bit differently compared to what we used to at the same time. So, like most any other Switch games these days. So, anywho, so yeah, as far as I do remember, that since during the forms of in last year, I think we did somewhat briefly mention about this, but I'll also mention about this anyway, that I do know for a fact that the Wii U is basically the ultimate game console when it comes to Metroid games, because obviously you would be able to actually access to the forms of the original Metroid, Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion, and Metroid Zero Mission, and heck, even especially noticeable with the forms of the entire Metroid Prime trilogy within, you know, obviously with Metroid Prime trilogy on the Wii, and in addition to the standalone version of Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, and especially noticeable with the forms of RM. But there are a couple of game exceptions here and there, like there's no Metroid 2 Return of Samus on the Wii U, and same applies with the forms of, let's just say, the 3DS installments here and there. Although, generally speaking, there's also Metroid Prime Hunters for the DS, thanks to the forms of the Virtual Console games on the Wii U. So relatively speaking though, I was maybe discovered that Nintendo Switch, ow, how the heck did that hit me? Especially noticeable, I did clear the stage. Oh well, no big deal. But anyway, bit of a weird coincidence right there. So now let's move on to the next zone, which is Sky Chase Zone. So obviously Tails can't able to actually follow me. Well, he's obviously gonna be taking control of his tornado. So, anywho, so one thing I actually did realize is that maybe potentially that the Nintendo Switch, it might actually be the true Zelda machine for sure. Well, in terms of game systems anyway. Well, it's actually kind of a tough choice between both the Wii U and Nintendo Switch, because I'm pretty sure they both share the exact same amount of titles currently speaking. Like, usually relatively speaking, for both the Switch and the Wii U, that they both managed to got Zelda 1, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, Zelda A Link to the Past, and Zelda Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and the Minish Cap so far, thanks to the forms of the NSO applications. But now we've actually got more Zelda stuff thanks to the forms of the NSO. Like, for instance, that we've already got Link's Awakening, specifically the original version of the game. Well, I think it's more specifically the DX version, along with potentially the original version as well, I guess. That's basically though, that was actually a, you know what I mean. But eventually they're able to actually get Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons on the Switch. So yeah, remakes doesn't usually, well, it might be pretty tricky to explain. But because of that though, for the Wii U exclusive stuff, as far as I do realize, they have managed able to got is The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker HD, and same applies to the Twilight Princess HD, despite the fact that you're now able to actually experience both versions of Twilight Princess on the Wii U, both on the Wii and Wii U, so yeah, double the bill I guess, but also with the forms of 2 Zelda games, both Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, thanks to Virtual Console re-release versions, even though it wasn't until, when it gets to the point, until about a month later, it will be a pretty sad, tragic death for the actual eShop applications for both Wii U and Nintendo 3DS, so it kinda sucks, honestly. So as a result, it has to happen, unfortunately. So, unless if you really want able to hack your, not only your 3DS, but also the Wii U, if you're about to miss out on a lot of classic retro things here and there. Well, luckily I did manage to able to get some of my, retro stuff here and there before the actual store closes, luckily. So, relatively speaking, no, there's not much else to add. And there was also, Link's crossbow trading, thanks to forms of a backwards compatibility thing for your Wii U and stuff like that. But there was one particular Zelda game that I totally forgot to mention about. That is, of course, the Game & Watch Zelda game, which it was basically one of those 1980s Game & Watch kind of stuff, which I didn't actually realize that becomes a thing, because I soon to able to discover it does manage to have this thanks to Game & Watch Gallery 4, or Game & Watch Gallery Advance for those of you who lived in European countries for the Game Boy Advance. So I did not notice that was existence until now anyway though. So yeah, looks like potentially it does manage to have that. I'm wondering if it's possible that Game & Watch Gallery 4 might be potentially be on the NSO expansion pack, which I know for a fact that because we've already got the 3rd installment of this entire compilation, although for whatever reason we didn't seem able to get the first game and the second game for this entire Game & Watch Gallery compilation, but hopefully by that time until the future months to come, then it would potentially try to able to reveal something more. Well, if depending on the forms of the actual difficult situations with all that gaming releases during that time period. Well, apart from the fact that, well, relatively speaking though, in terms of, well, anything else that also both the Wii U and Switch has, that's of course Hyrule Warriors. So as a result, you know, with the original game, well, I suppose for that matter though, that relatively speaking, when it comes to like, you know, certain Switch Zelda games they obviously do have at the moment, well, potentially speaking, 2 more were about to come, or technically 3 actually, because obviously with the hugest game is going to be on its way. But relatively speaking, for the Switch they do have, when it comes to certain exclusives as far as I'm aware, well obviously they've got, you know, Link's Awakening DX on the Game Boy Color. Well, technically both the original and DX versions because of all that. Well, there's one thing I totally forgot to mention about. What makes the actual Game Boy online expansion, or to be more specifically NSO Surface, is super unique, is that not only does it able to contain Game Boy Color Palette mode, but also with Game Boy Pocket Color Palette, but also say applies with Game Boy Color Palette too. So yeah, it's a pretty cool addition, especially notable about the fact that, well, if you're getting bored with the forms of the actual like dull green monochrome kind of thing, well basically you can able to actually change that into your settings. So pretty cool to able to have that feature, which I think I totally forgot to mention about during the course of the forms of that particular Nintendo Direct discussions as far as I'm aware. So here we go, on to the final zone in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and this is by far the hardest zone, and not only in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but in my opinion one of the hardest zones in the entire classic Sonic games. That is of course the Defect Zone, just because you have no rings, and also you have to deal with this, in my honest opinion, one of the hardest boss fights in the entire classic Sonic games, and that is of course the Defect Robots, which, to be fair, is the most iconic thing in the world. Especially notable, they managed able to reuse that in the future Sonic games potentially, like, you know, Sonic Generations, as well as the forms of, let's just say Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1, despite they managed to rehash that particular boss fight, which not only does it make things a little bit more of a rehash, but also it makes the actual boss fight a lot more, I don't know, dragged on, and also because of how, in fact, I'm not a big fan of the actual music from Sonic 4 Episode 1, because it loops like 5 times per minute, so we're just getting a bit more of a repetition, more on my ad. And unfortunately I died to this particular Defect Robot, because I swear to God, because every time when I was expecting to able to actually hit him, well, thankfully, we do have infinite amount of lives thanks to the forms of the anniversary mode, so we don't have to necessarily worry about getting the game over anytime soon. Well, assuming, of course, if you ever played a classic mode, oh man, good luck. So, anyway, yeah, in terms of other Switch exclusives for certain Zelda games up to this point, well, as far as I'm aware, that The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons and Ages are about to be definitely going to be coming on the Game Boy surfaces and stuff like that, in the NSO surfaces, and also we've got Cadence of Hyrule, and also with the forms of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, which is more likely like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild version of Hyrule Warriors for sure, and finally with the forms of the most highly anticipated games of all time, which is of course Tears of the Kingdom. So as a result, yeah, it feels kind of close, kind of thinking about it. Well, there are a few Zelda game exceptions that does not make it to the actual Wii U or the Switch at the moment, which are, usually the majority of them is the co-op based Zelda games, ranging between Four Swords Adventures, and Triforce Heroes, and I just really wish if A Link Between Worlds could potentially get its re-release on Nintendo Switch or something like that. Well, it might be pretty difficult to tell at this point, because relatively speaking though, that, well, we're just still waiting for the likes of the forms of Tears of the Kingdom to be arriving, because, you know, everyone else is very excited about that game, myself included, especially because, you know, everyone else has been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for it since when it first announced back in during the forms event E3 2019, which is almost roughly 4 years ago. I mean, relatively speaking, yeah, time flies, didn't you know? Oh, I suppose I should probably also mention about this is that apparently though, Cozy Grove is getting a physical release on the Nintendo Switch, by the way, and that could be also applies onto the PlayStation 5 version as well. But either way, I suppose the last thing I want to mention for the sake of today's discussion, well, again, I would have liked able to explain more details on other stuff, but at the moment it's just about the fact that unfortunately my laptop starts to able to lag again, which is annoyingly inconsistent. So, anyway, for the final thing I want to discuss upon, and that is the fact that recently, Sports Story is actually getting its new update has been announced, thanks to the forms of, at the moment, is actually going to be on version 1.0.5. So either way though, because chances are they managed able to fix a lot of things. So there you go folks, that pretty much does it for Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So let's just watch the ending. And somehow about the fact of the matter is though, since we actually got all 7 Chaos Emeralds since the beginning portion of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, as I said before, we could also see Super Sonic is flying about, and generally speaking, we're also able to see the best ending of the game, to see what really happens of the actual Death Egg is going to be all about. Because after all, about the fact that this is obviously based off from the 2013 remastered version of the game, so we can able to actually see what really happens to the Death Egg itself. Because relatively speaking, unlike the original version of the game, it just cuts to the point where it just shows us the actual Sonic the Hedgehog 2 logo, and that's about it basically. So as a result, yeah, we can now able to finally get a chance to see what really happens, and especially noticeable about the fact that, well, you'll see and find out until whenever when that particular credits starts to roll. So either way though, still, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a fantastic game, one of my favorite Mega Drive games I've ever played. Even especially noticeable, it's definitely one of my favorite Sonic games out there, next to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Sonic Mania, along with Sonic Adventure 2, and you name the rest. And it shows Sonic the Hedgehog 2 logo on the bottom right corner this time around, as opposed to the likes of the credit sequence that you saw in the original version of the game, including Knuckles and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 as well, relatively speaking. So, yeah, that was it folks, 3 games down and only 1 more to go, and trust me, the last game on this entire compilation as of now will be a lot more epic, especially noticeable, well, despite there are some very strange changes onto the forms of the Sonic Origins version of the game, which I'll point it out and during at some point until the next weekend, because obviously about the fact we are getting very, very, very close towards at the very end of February for sure. So relatively speaking though, that's as far as I can usually talk about this for the sake of time folks. I mean, Honestly, that's what I can able to ask for. I mean, yeah, I did mention quite a few bits and bobs here and there for this point today, but, I mean, relatively speaking, that's as far as I can say about it. In fact, there was one last thing I want to mention before I end off this video. Let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. What was your predictions for the likes of the Forms of the Pokemon Presents presentation? Because either way though, most people are already speculating there might be DLC coming for the likes of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Well, despite the fact that I don't normally play Pokemon games as much as the next guy, but either way though, it might be pretty interesting to see certain announcements alike if they come for its fruition. So either way though, well, time will tell, especially noticeable. Again, it will happen until tomorrow, but unfortunately though, as I said before, I don't think Maxie will be able to mention more about it, and especially noticeable about the fact that, well, I was kind of able to mention about that anyway when that time comes. So, yeah, it seems pretty good to be able to actually see 2 of those gaming presentations for Nintendo for this month, once again. Just like it forms of how it does it in 2021 and last year in 2022. Unlike it forms of how it does it in 2020 because it's an entirely different level. So either way though, let's not get ahead of ourselves for this point. So either way, man, I just really love playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2 again, especially with all that, you know what I mean, Christian Whitehead version of the game is now a thing for, you know, ever since in 2013 and stuff. So either way. So let's see what really happens right here. Oh gee, looks like the Death Egg is about to crumble down. And as to be expected, that Dr. Eggman just once again just keeps on jumping and stomping. Oh god, what's up with that familiar face behind the hedge? I guess we'll find out until next weekend. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic Origins. It's that we're about to be playing the final game in the lineup, and that is of course Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun. So I'll see you guys then.